Hey everybody, I'm out here by the creek again today, and I want to share another song that was recently sung by my wife and my son Jacob called He Touched Me. And I want to share a little history behind the song very briefly. It was written by Bill Gaither back in 1963, and Bill Gaither was traveling around with an old preacher friend of his. They were going to various preaching crusades, and he recalled one night after one of the meetings that Dr. Oldham said, "Bill, I want you to think about that word touch. It's a very popular word." He said it comes up in the New Testament a lot when it talks about Jesus touching people's eyes and healing them and touching their lives and changing them. He said it's such a great word. He said you ought to write a song about being touched by God. And as I was thinking about this, I was reminded of the story in Matthew chapter 20. It tells the story of two blind men that were sitting by the road when Jesus was coming by one day, and as they were sitting by the road and heard that Jesus was coming, they called out and said, "Lord, have mercy on us." And Jesus stopped. You know, the crowd was trying to get them to be quiet and to not bother Jesus, but they kept calling out all the more, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us." And Jesus stopped, and they asked him to heal them. And it says in verse 34, it says, Jesus had compassion on them and touched their eyes, and immediately they received their sight and followed them. And you know, you see that kind of thing all through the Gospels, Jesus going along and touching people's lives and healing them and changing them, and they got up and followed him from that point on. And you know, getting back to the story about Bill Gaither, as they were driving back from the crusade that night, their conversation turned to how the Spirit of God had been moving in those crusade meetings. And Bill said he just couldn't get the evangelist's words out of his mind, how you ought to write a song about being touched by God. And Bill said he couldn't even sleep that night. He began thinking about at the beginning of the crusades, how empty people looked, how sad they looked, and then during the crusade meeting, as the Spirit of God was moving, that God touched them, and they left with joy, and they left with hope, and they left with peace. And he went on to write the song that night, "He Touched Me." And the words of that song began, "Shackled by a heavy burden, 'neath a load of guilt and shame, then the hand of Jesus touched me, and now I am no longer the same. He touched me, oh, he touched me, and oh, the joy that floods my soul. Something happened, and now I know he touched me and made me whole." So I hope you'll enjoy this song by my wife and Jacob. And if you're going through a difficult time, I hope you'll just call out to God today. And I pray that he touches your life in a very special way. Thanks.